Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Iman. I'm from England and currently living in Istanbul, Turkey, and I was asked by ITV Networks to record a video about Ramadan here in Istanbul.
Walaikum salam. So I've been in Canada for about 2 years now. I moved here after I got married. Prior to this, I was born and raised in California, but my parents, my grandparents, they're all originally from and lived in South Africa. My in-laws and my husband as well, they were born and raised in South Africa. My brother-in-law, myself, and my cousins were all first generation.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Razina from Brisbane, Australia. Thanks for having me on ITV. I've been in Australia, in Brisbane, for 15 years. I'm originally from Zimbabwe and I lived in South Africa for a short time as well. I'm currently a stay-at-home mum to my two young children. On the side, I also write Islamic children's books and I run the website and social networks Read Little Muslims. So you can find me there. I'm here to tell you a little bit about Ramadan in Brisbane.
The Muslims here are from all over the place. There's a lot of people that come here to work as well as to study. So far, I've met people from countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, um, various other Arab countries such as Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. There's a lot of people from eastern Turkestan and also from Syria. The Syrians have come here, a lot of them due to the war over the past few years, which is really sad, but it's been really nice for me to actually come back in touch with them as I actually grew up in Syria as a child for a few years. So that's been really nice, alhamdulillah. I think personally, whenever I go to a different country, I try and mix more with the locals or with people who are not from the same background as myself. So I've tried really hard to connect with the locals in Istanbul since I've been here. More so recently, learning the language, it's been given me the opportunity to be able to communicate with people a lot better. It's been really amazing so far, alhamdulillah. I mean, the locals have just taught me so many things. I think I noticed from the beginning small things about just how caring they are towards themselves, their families, their environment, and especially the animals. I mean, for those of you who've come to Istanbul before, you'll know and you would have seen how many cats there are on the streets of Istanbul, and it's something that I see on a day-to-day basis. Various people will just go to the store and buy a few bags of cat food and spend some time just going down different roads and alleyways just putting food out for the cats. So that's something that really struck me when I first came, and I noticed, mashallah, how caring they are towards the animals, especially the cats of Istanbul. The Turkish people are really hardworking. I've always seen them put a lot of effort into everything they do, from the people who clean the streets to people who work in businesses and stuff like that. So it's a really good ethic to have, and I think that's taught me a lot also being here. There's so many beautiful things that I see on a day-to-day basis. I mean, going to uni every day, I'll walk down a very busy main road, and there's a petrol pump, and next to the petrol pump there's a small gated green area, and in the middle of this green area is a grave. And I never knew whose grave this was. I still don't know whose grave it is, but I will see people covered, not covered, looking religious, it could be anyone on the street. Just as they pass by, they will all stop and just make a dua for that person who's buried in that grave. And I think that's something that was really beautiful to see. There's a really lovely feeling of patriotism here. People love their country, they love their president, They love their religion, they love their language, and especially obviously their culture as well. So that's been a really nice thing that I've been able to tap into slowly, as I get to know the Turkish people more and more. So I think I've taken a lot from them, and inshallah I really hope to learn a lot more as time goes on.
So many of the Muslims here are from various regions from around the world. We do have a lot of foreigners since we have two major universities here. There is a major representation of people from around the world, especially within the student body of our Muslim student associations here. Pretty much all aspects of the world are covered. But at the same time, there are also many of us who are first generation native to North America as well. What I find amazing in Canada is that people are so aware of religion here. Our Prime Minister constantly reminds us that while we're all different, we're all the same as well. So, contrary to many of today's world leaders, he's continuously reminding us to be aware of and proud of the diversity that we have in Canada. It also makes a difference in the general population here. I remember one Eid, my husband went to the store and a non-Muslim clerk had asked him his name. When he said, "My name is Muhammad," the non-Muslim clerk turned around and said, "Oh, Eid Mubarak," which I was surprised that he knew, how to greet a fellow Muslim on Eid day and was aware that it was Eid. It was staunchly different than what I'm used to in the States. Even many people that I work with, they're well versed in the teachings of Islam. I have coworkers who come to me and say Inshallah, despite being non-Muslim, very well aware of what it means. They know how to recognize when someone is Muslim due to the fact that, they don't eat pork. They tend to ask. They're very well aware of, Ramadan, of what Ramadan entails, of the spiritualness. I believe one year our Prime Minister also fasted. It's just contrary and so staunchly different than what I'm used to in the States, where I find people are very unaware of Islam in general, of what Islam means, of what halal is. Whereas here in Canada, there's so many places that advertise their halal. We even have a local butcher that's halal. I remember my husband and I went to dinner and there was an advertisement for the halal butcher in their menu saying that they got it locally from this butcher. And when I asked them, is the chicken from this butcher? They said, yes, that chicken is halal. It was very, very humbling to know that people here are so well aware and very well educated.
So apparently Muslims have been in Australia since the 1600s. First Muslims were Afghan cameliers, followed by Malay tradesmen. In Brisbane itself, we have quite a large growing Muslim population. There are lots of us from Southern Africa. There are lots of people from North Africa, lots of Arabs, lots of people from Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, Bosnia and Turkey. There are also a fair number of Australian reverts as well. So it's a nice mix, a very multicultural mix of people, and you can see that reflected in most of the masjids that you can attend around Brisbane.
The masjids here are amazing. They're really, really beautiful. I think just the architecture, the interior design, the way that the mosques themselves, the domes and the minarets contribute to the city's skyline is just an amazing view to be able to see. One of the first masjids I ever came to when I first moved here was the masjid of Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, which is also where he's buried. It's a really beautiful place. It was built after the conquest of Istanbul and it's based near to the Golden Horn. And it's just buzzing from the morning till the evening. It's completely busy and it's just a really amazing place just to go and, just make dua for anything. So I would definitely recommend going there. There are lots of other masjids like Masjid Suleymaniye, which is one of the biggest mosques in Istanbul. You can see the Bosphorus from the mosque, so the view is really amazing. It was built by a really famous architect called Mimar Sinan, who's also buried there alongside the Sultan and his wife Hurrem. There is also Fatih Jami, which is based in an area in Istanbul called Fatih, named after the Ottoman conqueror of Istanbul, Fatih Sultan Mehmet. And it has a proper Arab vibe around there because there's a lot of Syrians that live there, but it's a really beautiful masjid also to see. I think personally I discover new masjids on a day-to-day basis, ones that I'll probably walk past so many times and just not realize that are actually there until you're out one day and you need to pray, and you kind of just pop into the closest mosque and you're just like, wow, you know, why haven't I been here before? So there's amazing masjids like Mehrema Jami and Sekullu Mehmet Pasha Jami, which is actually near the Blue Mosque. The Blue Mosque obviously is really beautiful. It's somewhere where I think I was just gobsmacked the first time I ever walked in there. So the masjids are really amazing, subhanAllah, and it's beautiful to see how well looked after they are, beautifully preserved, and I think it's a really nice impression to have, to give all those who come to visit Istanbul also.
There is a local masjid close by to where I live in Canada. The men in Ramadan go to Tarawih every night, whereas my mother-in-law and I tend to go on weekends. Back home in California, this is sort of similar, but the ladies who congregate there are just as big as the men's congregation, and just the same as in Canada. There are constantly religious events going on during Ramadan at the mosque, where you can spend the entire night there listening to lectures and, you know, different recitations and praying Sabina namaz. So there's so many different things to do. What I remember is back when I lived at home in California, my brothers, my cousins, and myself used to go to a different mosque every weekend for Tarawih, because each imam brought a different level of spiritualness. There was always a different speaker coming to talk to us. So we kind of enjoyed getting the feel at different mosques and experiencing the different kinds of recitations being presented, the different talks being presented. So it was always a fun time where we got to spend this with, close friends, close family.
So, like most places in Ramadan, the masjids do come alive with the community. Most of them have facilities for women and children as well, well-behaved children. So it's a nice family atmosphere if you do go for Tarawih to the masjids. We have the various charities who are collecting money for those less well off, and that happens at the masjids too. There are iftars at some of the masjids as well. Some happen on the weekend, some in the week. So it's a nice atmosphere coming up to Ramadan. In some of our local supermarkets where there's a large Muslim population, you'll see Happy Ramadan signs, lots of dates for sale. The community atmosphere is really nice. You have people giving gifts and things like that. So it's a beautiful atmosphere coming up to Ramadan. We're fortunate to have a large Muslim population, and especially in the area where I live, there's 2 masjids nearby, I think within a 2 or 3 kilometer radius, another one being earmarked to be built in the next couple of years. So alhamdulillah, for Muslims in our area, we're very fortunate to have a big community nearby and a really good Ramadan atmosphere going on. So it's good for our children, it's a good community feel for us.
Life here is busy, mashallah. I think for myself, because I have quite a busy routine, so there isn't much time to just sit around and, be bored. Istanbul, I think, is the 7th biggest city in the world, if I'm not mistaken. So it's continuously buzzing from morning till evening. There's never a quiet time. And it's really nice. It's actually quite nice. There's a lot of character to the city. There is always something going on. I mean, just a few weeks ago, there was a cultural festival that took place, and it was celebrating all the sports and traditions and the cultures of all the countries that used to be under the rule of the Ottoman Empire. and it was amazing. There was horseback archery and horse acrobatics, and people had come and set up tents, and it actually felt like you were in, like you'd gone back about, I don't know however many decades to the olden times. Everyone was wearing their traditional clothing and making their food and selling the arts and crafts, and there was horse riding for people to try out, there was archery for people to try out, and it was a really awesome thing to see, mashallah. I think what I also really like about Istanbul is the balance that there is between your Islamic side and the modern aspect of your day-to-day life. You could be anywhere, like in a mall or walking on the street, or anywhere, but when it's time for salah and the adhan goes and the adhan is done, everyone turns off their music and goes to pray. And I think what surprised me is that it's a lot of people who you don't actually think are very religiously inclined, who you wouldn't attribute a sense of or that person covered. And it could be anyone. It would be people who don't really wear that many clothes, or people who are not wearing hijab, ladies who are not wearing hijab, but when it's time to pray, they're all in the mosque covered and ready to pray even before I am. So I think that taught me really not to judge people, and it's just, mashallah, it's a really nice thing. I really respect a lot of the people who do that, mashallah. I think Istanbul is a very family orientated place. There's a big family vibe. You'll see dads are really hands-on, taking their kids to the parks and pushing them onto the swings and taking them out. There's always family out. They go out a lot to eat, or there's a lot of there's a big social side to life here also. There's so many lovely, beautiful cafes and restaurants and libraries and parks and loads of places to explore. So whenever I have free time, I always try and go and see something new, mashallah. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to be here, alhamdulillah. Ramadan here is actually, this is my first Ramadan here, so this is based on the few things that I've experienced so far, and also from asking my friends. The fasting this year is around, I think, between 15 and 16 hours, and it's hot, but it's not unbearably hot, so I think it's around 26-27 degrees. Work and school goes on. There's no holidays yet until after Eid, so during the day everyone's still at work and still at school. I think people like mums and people who are ladies who don't work, they'll gather together during the day in each other's houses to read Qur'ans and finish khatams during Ramadan. At iftar time, there's loads of free, there's these places that give out iftar to people who are on the streets or people who don't have food, or maybe need help. So there's that goes on almost on a day-to-day basis. There's also various iftars that are organized by the borough, or it's a government thing, so they'll lay out humongous lines and lines of food on mats, and people will go there to break their fast. It's really beautiful during the night to go to the different masajid and pray tarawih and experience different recitations of Quran. Another thing that's really beautiful to see is during Ramadan at night time, you'll see there's these banners that are suspended between the minarets of each mosque, and they're lit up in the night time, and they'll say things like "Welcome Ramadan" in Turkish, obviously written. So it's a really beautiful thing to see at night time. You'll see people, going, families gathering together before Maghrib and taking the iftar to the masjid and breaking their fast there. There's a lot of incentives that's given for the children also. For example, we got a note from our local masjid saying that if the children in the neighborhood go and pray Fajr for the whole of Ramadan they would be given a new bicycle as a gift. So there's a lot of incentive for the children also, which is really nice. During just before suhoor time, so before Fajr, there are people that come banging on their drums around and down the streets, waking people up to eat suhoor. So that was a really beautiful thing to experience, mashallah. I think on the whole, it's really beautiful. What's good that it's not like other Islamic countries where for Ramadan life stops until after Ramadan. The people are still at work, they're still at school, they're still carrying on, as well as doing the ibadah and all the rest of the stuff that accompanies Ramadan. So I'm really looking forward to actually experiencing it fully, and inshallah I'll have more to tell you all next time.
Ramadan here in Canada and the United States is in the summer right now. This means that the fasts are incredibly long. In the States and in Canada, the timings are pretty similar. If I remember correctly from last year, I believe that suhoor was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and we would have to be done with suhoor around 3:45 a.m., after which Fajr was around 4:15. We wouldn't have iftar until about 9 o'clock here in Canada. It's similar to California where my parents and my siblings are. They would open their iftar around 8 o'clock. So really, really long days. But alhamdulillah, because it was in the summer, what we would do when we were in school, because we had the 3 month summer vacation, is we would stay up all night until suhoor, eating, praying, drinking water, spending time with family, and then we would basically sleep all day. And that also helped with the heat, because staying indoors really, really, helped. Going out when it was sunny would, make you thirsty. You'd see people eating. You would kind of feel it a bit more when you went out. But of course, I don't have the luxury of doing that anymore. I work now, so does my husband. So what we do is our daily routine is to go to work, come home at 5 o'clock, realize you still have another 4 hours. So we would either take a nap, pray Quran, or do both some days, and then prep iftar, pray our maghrib, and then continue to eat dinner, by which time it was probably time to get ready for Isha and Tarawih. So the days after iftar tend to go really quickly, and you realize really how food and drink takes a toll on your body and how your body can adjust to long stretches of time without food and drink.
So I guess life in Brisbane is pretty much, I guess, like anywhere else. You get caught up in routines of life, school, work, things like that. We have short fasts at the moment. We're in the middle of winter, same as South Africa, so that makes it a bit easier on us and on the children, of course. Outside of Ramadan, there's lots to be done here in Brisbane, lots of outdoor activities to enjoy. We have a very nice climate throughout the year as well. Lots in the Muslim community that's happening. There's lots of people doing a lot of good work. So there's lots of volunteer opportunities, lots of work to be done in our community, but there's lots of people doing good things. So it's really positive to see. Overall, even though Australia does have a bad reputation in the media and things about being Islamophobic and things like that, in general, day-to-day life, we're very fortunate. I think people are very friendly, people are very welcoming and understanding on the whole. So it's a good place to be at the moment. So alhamdulillah, I suppose everyone has challenges everywhere, and we just
Eid Day is very much family orientated. It's, I think, one of the times of the year, obviously, that all the close and extended families gather together. I think the night, a few nights before, I spent obviously cleaning and getting ready and buying new clothes and, you know, getting all your food stuff ready. And the mums will make all a big meal, mashallah, with things like Turkish baklava and loads of sweets and treats and stuff for everyone. In the morning, everyone goes to pray. And after the prayer, you come back and have breakfast. Everyone has breakfast together as a family. There's a really beautiful tradition where the younger children will go to the elder generation and kiss their hands. And when they do that, the elder generation will give them gifts or money or whatever it may be. So that's really, really nice. It just shows adab and respect, and it's a tradition that happens on Eid. Obviously giving money out to the poor, giving sweets out to all the kids, and I think it's just mainly spending time with family. There's a lot of Turkish people that actually go away for Eid, so they'll go to a different part of Turkey to stay with relatives, or sometimes even as a kind of a holiday thing, and they'll stay until after Eid and then come back. So the streets are dead on Eid, which is really strange to see, because as I mentioned previously, it's always buzzing, you know, it's really busy. But no, it's a really beautiful atmosphere, mashallah.
Eid in Canada is spent a similar way to what we do on weekends. So on weekends here in Canada, each South African family that we have takes the turn hosting a Saturday night iftar. People get together. We bring each person brings a little dish, whether it's an appetizer, a dessert, and we host an iftar at somebody's house, which differs from week to week. It's much the same as Eid. Every year it differs as to who's hosting. And again, we begin the day by going to prayer at the park that's really close to my house, where thousands of Muslims congregate and pray. After prayer, we get together, but on a bigger scale. So a lot of the locals would get together on Saturdays for iftar. Now we'd have people from, you know, an hour away from different cities coming and spending Eid together. Everybody again would bring a little dish, but there was a main host. And then what we would do is we would have lunch and dinner together and just spend the day reflecting on the rest of summer, on Ramadan, on, you know, how we found Ramadan, on what we're going to do differently next year. So it's just a great time to spend with friends and family. So are the Saturday night iftars. It was a nice way to get the locals together, to get the kids together, to sort of, it was something to look forward to at the end of the week, that, oh, you know, you get a different kind of food, or somebody else is cooking and you get dessert, maybe spoiled a little more. So it's all just a fun and joyous time that's also a very spiritual time to spend with friends and family.
I'm not really someone to give advice. There are many more people more qualified than myself for that. I was actually in South Africa last December. I had gone to Cape Town to visit some friends. It was one of the most amazing trips I'd ever been on. The community was so beautiful. I met so many amazing people, and I was made to feel so welcome and relaxed. And it's definitely somewhere that I hope to come and visit again, inshallah. I think what I would say, I mean, I'm living in Istanbul at the moment, but coming from England, I think something that I did notice is, mashallah, how you guys are really free to just, you know, practice Islam and just be Muslims, without that much of a hassle. I'm sure people obviously experience problems and, you know, racism here and there, but I think on the whole, it's fairly easy, mashallah, and I think that's a really big blessing. I think it's something that you should really take advantage of. Don't take it for granted. I think what I believe builds the foundation of a really good community is just being at the service of those around you, being at the service of the people in that community. There's so many people in every community that have various skills and you know, talents, and I think that it's about coming together and using those, inshallah, in a positive way. there's always someone going through a hard time. There's always someone suffering in silence, and I think it's about reaching your hand out to that person or to those people and just letting them know that you're there for them, and that you're at their service, you're in their khidmah. Like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Sayyidul Qawm khadimuhum, which means the master of a people is he who serves them. So I think inshallah if we all try and adopt that attribute, inshallah we'll become stronger and more close-knit and better inshallah as a community.
So Ramadan Mubarak to all of you in South Africa. Thanks me on ITV. I ask that you remember me and my family in your du'as, and I pray that you have a peaceful, blessed, accepted month. May Allah accept all our efforts as well. And I look forward to talking to you again. Jazakallah for having me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I don't have much advice for the viewers in South Africa, except that I'm definitely going to stay off my WhatsApp food groups during the day here because the time difference and seeing all your lovely iftar dishes and your suhoors definitely gets us hungry on a long summer day when we're fasting. But other than that, what I would like to say is I wish everybody a blessed and spiritual Ramadan.